word to the White House and the country that both Trump's top former campaign chair and his personal lawyer fixer now stand guilty of federal charges. Paul Manafort was convicted of 8 felonies today, including filing false income tax returns, failing to report foreign bank accounts, and another foreign bank fraud charge. Michael Cohen pled guilty also on the 8 counts today of federal campaign violations and other charges. He faces up to 5 years in jail. Deputy U.S. Attorney Robert Kazami had this to say about the Cohen case.
These are very serious charges and reflect a pattern of lies and dishonesty over an extended period of time. We are a nation of laws, and the essence of this case is about is justice, and that is an equal playing field for all persons in the eyes of the law, and that is a lesson that Mr. Cohen learned today.
It is a very bad day for the president. At this hour, he's holding a rally in West Virginia. If he says anything, we'll go to it live. Michael Cohen, who once said he would take a bullet for the president, told a judge today he made hush money payments to 2 women at the direction of Trump. He said he did it knowingly as a campaign expense. The 2 women said they had affairs with President Trump. The White House has denied those allegations. But according to the New York Times, advisor to President Trump viewed the investigation into Cohen as more dangerous to the presidency than even the special counsel's investigation. We might soon know why. For more, I'm joined by Ken Vogel, political reporter for the New York Times, Katie Fang, MSNBC legal analyst, Tom Winter, investigative reporter for NBC News, who's at the courthouse in Lower Manhattan, and Omarosa Manigault-Newman, author of Unhinged, an insider's account of the Trump White House. Omarosa, I wanted you on tonight because you've been very close to these men. You've been very close to Trump, very close to Cohen, to Michael Cohen, who's now sworn under oath the president was a co-criminal with him in terms of using money to shut up women so it wouldn't hurt his campaign. In other words, as a campaign expense, a criminal law violated. They concealed it. It's now come out that it was done purposely as a concealed matter to help his campaign. It's a crime. He's pointing the finger at the president. How's your reaction to that?
Well, I think that for Donald Trump, he should be very concerned today because Michael Cohen has made a commitment that he is going to look out for himself and his family over his extreme loyalty to Donald Trump. I mean, we all knew that this was going to be used as a hush money kind of payment from campaign finances.
You knew at the time?
Oh, we knew. And Michael
Cohen... 150 to McDougal and 130 to Stormy Daniels. All that money, it's $250,000, a lot of money. All that money was taken effectively to get him elected.
Oh, absolutely. And unfortunately, there are a lot of donors, a lot of people who gave to this campaign expecting it would go towards the victory. But instead, it was going to shut these women up. And that is illegal.
How's this going to sell among Kellyanne and people in the White House? The people in there who work very close to the president are still tied to him. How are they going to react when they watch the news tonight? Do they believe Cohen or do they believe the president?
Well, Kellyanne believes in alternative facts, and so she'll twist this anyway.
In her own head?
In her own head, but also in Trump world, that's what goes. The truth is relative to them, and they battle with reality. But the reality today is that the hammer came down on Donald Trump, both with Manafort and with Cohen.
Let me go to Tom on this. Tom Winter, your thoughts about the crime? It seems to me that Mr. Cohen faced thousands of years in prison practically. Why would you take a plea deal that said you can never vote again, can never be on a jury again, and you're going away for a hard time for 5 years? Why would you take that as the best deal you can get unless you face horrendously longer time, I would think?
Yeah, Chris, I mean, and I think that area that you just talked about when the judge read to him and asked him as part of this process, you know, do you know that you're not going to vote again? Do you know that you can't run for office again? When Michael Cohen was answering those questions, that was one of the few points where his voice kind of wavered a little bit. I think the gravity of what was happening today hit him. But in case that gravity didn't hit him, Chris, the gravity of, as the judge explained it, if he was to sentence Michael Cohen to the maximum for everything that he was charged with today on consecutive terms, he faced up to 65 years in prison. So he faced a tremendous amount of jail time if he did not plead guilty to these crimes and if the sentence was served consecutively. So I think Michael Cohen was looking at some serious time here. The other thing is, Chris, these were the crimes that he pled guilty to. Perhaps there were some other crimes that may have been on the fringe that could have been included into an indictment if he didn't plead to it. So he may have been on the hook for a little bit more trouble than what we were able to find out to in court today.
Let's get into the heart of this thing involving the President of the United States. It's why we're covering this case. It's the President of the United States involved. He's been figured as a felon here. And the question is, there's interpretation here. In other words, we're listening now to a man under oath, Michael Cohen, who knew the President, he was his fixer, his lawyer, saying under oath, swearing, that the President of the United States paid that money to those two women that he had the relations with, 150 and 130K total. He did that money as a campaign contribution. In other words, he has to know that that was the motive of the president, not to pay off women so his marriage would be intact, or the usual attempt to make your life seem cleaner than it is, but to get himself elected. How do you explain that in court? That's an amazingly particular charge that gets to the heart of this president's lack of credibility.
Exactly. I'm so thrilled you honed in on that specific part of it, because this is not just a payoff. This absolutely has to do with the campaign itself. And you know, Chris, when you have something like this and you say, well, you know, could Michael Cohen one day perhaps testify to something involving the President of the United States? Who knows? We may never know, and we'll see what ends up developing. But one thing that underlies testimony and makes Michael Cohen potentially very credible here is that we're talking about payments, which means that there's transactions, which means that there are records, which means there's documentation. So when you look at this, Chris, in its totality, not only are the things that Michael Cohen allocated to in court today very damning, but on top of that, these are banking allegations. These are things that have to do with payments. So I think these particular counts, as it relates to Michael Cohen and his implication of the president today, I think there's a lot of credibility to that just based on the evidence.
And Ken, to that point, we know that the president compensated him for the second 130. For some reason, he paid the 150 out of his legal stream of things. Somehow the money would pour through as part of a draw, you know, a retainer kind of situation. But the second time, the president paid the bill.
Yeah, and that's where you get the coordination. It's not just, you know, there's two counts here. One is an excessive contribution from Michael Cohen. The other is a corporate contribution, also excessive, also illegal. You get kind of the 1-2 punch there. Now, what I think that you talk about Michael Cohen's credibility, and we don't know what kind of additional proof beyond just his allocution and his sworn testimony he may have, but we can expect the Trump folks to come after that and say, no, he misunderstood that, he did that on his own, or he's mischaracterizing that. And so a lot will come down to his credibility, provided he doesn't have some kind of communication that might show definitively why this was done to further a federal campaign.
Well, let's go back to Katie. Thank you for joining us.